Good evening. Welcome to my second Hangout. For those of you who were here last week, you'll know who I am. For those of you who are new and who have joined us for the first time this week, my name is Richard and I am the founder of The Entrepreneur's Best Kept Secret. Those of you who were with me last week will remember that we spoke about confidence and how we can build up our confidence to develop our business and to achieve what we want to achieve, which is possible for all of us, as we said last week. Tonight, I want to develop that a little bit. We talked about confidence last week, and if you remember, I mentioned one of the processes that I thought was an important process in any business development, or even in people's personal lives, and that's the process of goal planning. Goal planning is a process which we go through. We decide on what we're aiming for, which we talked last week about having a vision, okay, for the business. And I'll come back to that in a little while. And then we look at the steps that we need to take to get to that vision. Okay, so goal planning is the process of deciding on what our vision is or our goal is, and then the steps that we decide we have to take in order to achieve that. Okay, so it's a fairly simple concept, but put into action, obviously it has a few more complications, shall we say. But used properly, it can help us to achieve an awful lot in life. It can help us to achieve most of what we want in life. Okay? So it's a very important part of our life. As I said earlier, goal planning can be used for personal issues as well as business. Okay? And when we look at our lives, our personal lives, we use goal planning all the time. We use goal planning ourselves. We use goal planning with other people. We use goal planning with our children as they're developing, as they're growing up. Okay? So the concept of planning, I would suggest we all know. We may not know it as goal planning, but we do all know it. If I give an example, when you have a new child in the family, we immediately start talking about at what development stage is that child. Every month, and after 6 months, and after 12 months, what stage have they developed to? Are they walking yet? Are they talking yet? What are they doing? Are they building blocks? What are they doing? And when we teach them these things, we're actually goal planning, because we teach them step by step. If you think of how we teach a child to eat, we often start off with finger foods, develop onto a spoon, a fork, a knife and fork, and we develop manners, teaching manners in the same way. So goal planning is something we use every day. But what we don't do is formalize it, because it's a natural thing to be doing in life, to be teaching our children to learn new skills, learn new tasks. So that's how we use it in our everyday life. We also use it, if you think about it, if you want to book a holiday, you know the stages you go through. You decide, when's your holiday going to be? Where do you want to go? Sometimes where you want to go before when the holiday is going to be, depending on the time of year you want to go there. Then you get the brochures, or you go on the internet, you find out all the different options, all the different offers, and then you decide on the offer you want, what suits you, the accommodation that suits you, the flights that suit you, and then you go and you book it. And step by step, you do that. And then when you're planning, just before you go, or even months before you go, you say, need X amount of money, so you save. Need certain clothing, so you get that clothing. All is taken in control by doing things step by step. And effectively, this is goal planning, because the ultimate goal in that is to be away on holidays and to enjoy that holiday. So it is goal planning, but it is not formalized. It's not a situation where we sit down and write everything down. We often write lists, and we alter those lists as we go along. And as you'll see later, that's what we do with goal planning. But it's more formalized. The goal planning is formalized in business. Okay, so in the business, we would be looking at goal planning in a more formal sense. Now, the process of goal planning, as I said earlier, is a means of achieving your aims or your goals and achieving them in a structured way. We talked about personal life and how we use goal planning informally with everyday things, as well as things slightly longer term, like planning for holidays. But the goal planning process in business is a bit more structured, but it still follows similar steps. Okay, so the steps will be deciding on what your goal is, writing that goal down. It's very important to write it down. Otherwise, your goal will differ each time you try and remember it. So it's important to write it down. Then you have to look at what is needed to achieve that goal. Okay, so that's important as well. What's needed? What tasks do you have to do to reach that goal? What knowledge do you have to obtain to achieve that goal? What finance do you need to get in place to achieve that goal? All these things need to be looked at. Decide on your timescale for completion. You have to look at what you want to achieve, all the things you have to do to achieve it, and look at a timescale. And then you set a review date and to see how you're progressing with your goals. You set that review date so that you can review, have you achieved your goals in the timescale that you set? Okay, now I'm going to look at that in a little bit more detail, because one of the methods that I often use for goal planning, which has been very useful for me, is called the SMART method. Okay, SMART. Okay, and those letters stand for the first S, specific. Okay, so you're looking at a goal. You need to be specific about that goal. Make it clear. Make it so that it can't be misinterpreted. It's very important that it's clear, because you may have more than one person having to refer to that. So therefore, it has to mean the same to everybody. So it needs to be clear and concise. Okay? Make it measurable. It's important that you can measure. You have completed it or you have not completed it. Okay? And when it comes to measuring, we refer back to the first S, where it talks about being clear and concise. If it is not clear and concise, you're not going to be able to measure it. Certainly not going to be able to measure it accurately. Okay, so we need to be specific, and the goals need to be measurable. They also have to be achievable. There's no point in setting goals or steps that people are not going to achieve. It's very important to be able to achieve this. If you're not going to achieve it, and you know you're not going to achieve it, you're wasting your time. Because you're only going to get into a situation where you come up against a brick wall and you can't go any further. So they must be achievable. Okay? They must be relevant. So again, we're talking about being focused. So the goals must be relevant to what you're doing and the main goal that you're achieving. It is pointless going away looking at all sorts of finances if it's got nothing to do with what you're looking at. Okay? So that's important. And time scale. You know, it's pointless saying you're going to build a hotel in the next 4 weeks. It's not going to happen. So you have to have a realistic time scale in order for you to be able to achieve what you're doing. And that time scale has to be clear and concise as well. Not say in a few weeks. It's got to be in 2 weeks, or give a specific date. And that's when the review will take place. And you review how you've gone up until then. Once that review takes place, you may then look at altering your steps forward or your goals going forward. Okay? That is the time when you may be reviewing things. So, I'll go through that again. We need to be specific and concise. So there's no interpretation. We need to be able to measure what we're aiming for. Those statements, those clear, concise statements. Needs to be achievable. Needs to be relevant to what you're doing. If it's not relevant, people lose interest and you're not going to achieve it. The time scale needs to be realistic. In these days of constraints, financial constraints, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, we'll get it done in the next month, in the next 6 weeks. Well, actually, it's going to take 8 or 10 weeks to do. It's very important that you have the time scales right. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve your goals. And it is very important to be able to do that. Otherwise, as I said last week, by achieving your goals, it affects your confidence as well. So this is a means of you gaining confidence as well. And that's a very important part of what you're doing. Now, as you've probably picked up from what I've been saying, I've talked about long-term goals, putting up a hotel, talked about short-term goals and reviewing as you go along. So if we have a look at what these could mean, if you're looking at your own business, if we look at your business and look at what you're doing, when you first started out, if you were using this process when you first started out, what was your goal for 10 years' time? What was your vision of your life? Okay, and that vision can be split into two things. It can be split into personal life and business life. Okay, personal life can be, your vision may be in 10 years' time, I'm going to be earning enough money. I will have earned enough money to be able to run my business from wherever in the world. With all technology that we have these days, I can run it from wherever. I will be earning enough money to have a comfortable lifestyle, to be able to travel as and when I want, and my family will have a comfortable lifestyle. That may be your personal goal for 10 years' time. Then you will need a business goal. So it depends what your business is as to what that is going to be. If you're looking to go into the hotel trade, then it could be that you want in 10 years' time to have 6, 10 hotels in a chain running for you. Okay, that is what your aim is for your business. That is where your aim is going to be. If you're offering a service, such as a coaching service, it could be that your aim is going to be, I'll be earning X amount and I will have X amount of people I'm working with. So it's very important to have those goals to aim for. Now, what we do then, we start to work backwards. Okay? We work backwards. So we'll say that's what it's going to be in 10 years' time. What am I expecting to have in 5 years' time? It's just really shortening those goals. In 5 years' time, I will be earning X amount, and I will have by then 4 hotels up and running and completed and running, ready to set the other hotels in the second half of the plan. So I then would be saying, right, 5 years' time, what are my goals for 3 years? And then you're starting to narrow things down. And you bring it down to 2 years. And you bring it down again. And 1 year. So if we focus on 1 year for now, because if you're looking at a hotel, odds on from the time you start, and I'm no expert in the hotel business, but from the time you start to 12 months' time, you would want that hotel up and running. So you would then say in 12 months the hotel will be up and running. This is what I need to do by then. Then you can bring it down month by month, what you need to be doing, right down to the first month. And the goals in the first month will be very detailed. Okay, so the first month could be, I have to go talk to the bank manager and make sure I get some cash. I need the finance for this business. I can put so much finance forward, but I need some help. So I need my friendly bank manager to help me out. So that is what I've got to do in the first month. But as well, you've got to make sure your business plan is completed to take to the bank manager. So it could be in a month's time, you have your appointment, but in 3 weeks' time, that business plan has to be completed. And that business plan will tell you everything you need to do to get that first hotel. Or even you may go for more money than that to look at the first few hotels. So you have to look at those detailed plans. And then you may have to take with you drawings and a very detailed business plan to get that money. So those are the things that have to be done very early on to achieve your early goals. Okay? And then once you've got that money in place, you could be a month later, you've got the money in place and you're ready to roll. You've got your contractors and you're ready to roll. And each month you will have goals. So you'll make your goals for the first month. You then sit down and say, right, these are the goals I set for this month. Did I achieve them or not? And if you didn't, why didn't you achieve them? It could be a legitimate reason, and therefore you have to put the date off, the amount of time you need off another couple of weeks or month or a month. Or, yes, I've achieved them. Now these are the goals I have to achieve in the next month. And after a month, you review them. And then so on and so on. And that's the way goal planning works. It's really having goals that you're going to be achieving month by month, sometimes week by week, because you may have dates in your contract that you have to achieve things by. So that will dictate your time scale sometimes. And that is something that you have to work to and make sure that you're very aware of in order to achieve your financial rewards. Because we know these days in big contracts, there's often a financial penalty if you don't achieve your goals. And that's why goal planning can be very, very useful. Because contracts these days can say, want you to do X, Y, and Z, it's got to be done by that date. You have to look at that before you sign that contract and say, can I achieve that? Is it achievable? Is it clear what I've got to achieve? So there's no loopholes that people can come back and say, but you didn't do that. It's got to be achievable, clear, achievable. And if you use the SMART system, it is quite a useful system to use. It's